This is literally breaking news. Benjamin Netanyahu already revealed that he had the plan to permanently militarily occupy the Gaza Strip, which they have entertained over and over again since October 8th. And virtually everyone said we were insane for this claim, right? And this past week, they officially announced it. And now this is the first Western press hit that Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. This is his revelation, okay? And I'm sorry, at this stage, if you don't recognize what's going on, you're a fucking moron. Like, really? You just are that oblivious? You're that obtuse? You are that lacking of critical thinking skills that you just look at the situation and you're like, I guess it just doesn't make any sense because the media keeps saying that, like, Hamas is up the ceasefire negotiations over and over again, even though Israel is killing all the negotiators. Israel is regularly saying that they don't want to stop the process of destruction. Like, I don't understand. I truly cannot comprehend how at this stage people are still looking at the situation and going, I don't really know what's going on. It seems like it's too complicated.
As you know, the fate of the hostages is still out there. As you know, there are allegations against this government for genocide and starvation. There are questions about his relationship with Donald Trump, even Vladimir Putin. Israel's long-term plans for Gaza and how they achieve a lasting peace is still an open question tonight. We mentioned we're almost 2 years into this war. This country's tired, but they're still fighting. Here now.
Yeah, dude, this framing is so psychotic because it presents Israel as the victims. This is a way to structure the conversation as though it's a David and Goliath situation where Israel is the David and not the Goliath. Oh, they're so tired, but they're still fighting. It's like, bro, what do you mean? Oh, they're tired from murdering babies? Wow, dude, I'm so sad. I'm so sad that Israel is too tired. This introduction is to the baby murderer himself revealing his final solution, like making it public knowledge in the Western world. That's how you're introducing the conversation?
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time today.
Well, glad to see you again.
Thank you. After this interview, you will go immediately into a meeting with your security cabinet. Will Israel take control of all of Gaza?
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance.
Brother, oh my Lord. This is illegal, by the way, under international law. Everything Israel does is illegal. Israel is an illegal entity. Israel, in the way that it currently exists and has expanded so consistently, has violated numerous international laws. It does not matter. International law only matters as far as someone, as far as there is, people who are willing to entertain international law, to regulate it. International law is inconsequential. In the simplest terms, whatever America says goes. If America doesn't think what Israel is doing is bad, then it doesn't matter. Israel can do whatever it wants to. Yes, he wants the population to be free of Gaza. That's what it was a Freudian slip, but, it's more honest than anything else he said.
Are you saying today that you will take control of the entire 26-mile Gaza Strip, as it was 20 years ago to this month in 2005?
Well, we don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it. We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas. The only way that you're going to have a different future is to get rid of this neo-Nazi army. The Hamas are monsters. Look at what they're doing to our people. They want people to be civilian casualties. They want a starvation policy that they themselves are trying to put into being, and we're doing everything to reverse that.
Also, here's another incredible moment. Via Amit Segal, the Trump administration is considering granting U.S. citizenship to the 20 living hostages in Gaza to increase the chances of their release. This motherfucker will do anything but put an end to the genocide, bro. I swear to God. Like, this is the type of shit that's really going to piss off his base. Like, who is this for, man? Take Israel's out of your mouth for 1 second and try to think. Like, this is crazy. I'm not a firm and committed believer in the whole, like, Benjamin Netanyahu as compromat on Donald Trump that Mossad has like compromising footage of Donald Trump. But every single day he behaves like a man who's caught children, okay, in the archives of like Unit 8200's basement or something. Like every other day he behaves as though there is just photographic evidence of his philia or something. I don't understand what this is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I know people will clip this and be like, Hassan doesn't want the hostages to be released. It's like, dude, there is a solution to releasing the hostages. It's called ending the genocide. What the is happening, man? I tried to mention this yesterday, but we'll see how successful they are in their attempt to occupy all of Gaza when they are being forced to make reserve battalions with soldiers up to 50 years old due to lack of manpower. I know. They can't do that without like forcibly conscripting the Haredi population, which will cause tremendous internal strife in Israel, in Israeli politics, because the Orthodox will say, no. There's just no way that Israel could just like maintain a permanent occupation of the Gaza Strip. I mean, it's tiny. The Gaza Strip is a tiny sliver of land. So I guess it's not as difficult as like Russia permanently occupying the entirety of Ukraine or even the eastern Ukrainian territories for a decent number of years. But even then, they just can't do that without full ethnic cleansing, which is why I think they are trying to do full ethnic cleansing. Like at most, they will try to turn the Gaza Strip into a West Bank style structure with a civil governance division that is tied to Israel in the same way that the Palestinian Authority is, and then continue whatever the they're doing in the West Bank in Gaza, which is pogroms, more land acquisition, and the inevitable expulsion of every single person. Do you think they're also doing this to hide the actual death toll once this genocide is over? Yes. That is the major reason. As I said time and time again, Israel cannot do a permanent ceasefire because once the dust settles and there are inevitably there are going to be Western forces that intervene. There's going to be Western journalists that go in. There's going to be Western investigators that go in. And when the dust settles and they see the true magnitude of this genocide, it's over.
And also the reason you see the flattened buildings is because Hamas booby traps every single building. So when we come in, we first have the population moved, even though Hamas tries to keep them in the combat zones. But after they move, and we start to move into the neighborhoods that are now populated only by terrorists, they ignite these booby traps. So what we do is we put in an APC, an armored personnel carrier, with a lot of explosives, detonate it. It sets off all the booby traps, and the buildings begin to collapse as a result of that. They're empty buildings. They're not populated buildings. Secondly, they've built this underground terror tunnel network with billions of dollars that they had. They didn't build Gaza up. They built a Gaza terror city underground. So we now detonate the tunnels.
Can Fox not fact check any of this? Bro, CNN doesn't even fact check this. Why would Fox? Like, every single thing he's saying is insane and completely wrong. Is there a tunnel system under Gaza? Absolutely. Except, once again, you don't have any right to keep killing Gazans. Like, what the do you mean? Oh, there's a terror system. There's a terror tunnel system underneath. Okay, you have one too. The do you mean? Do we just nuke Tel Aviv then? What are you talking about?
You deny this charge of genocide.
Totally.
That's what you're saying.
Totally.
But last week, and you referred to it a few moments ago, President Trump mentioned the word starvation. And he pretty much said it is what it is from his observation, looking at video and pictures. Were you surprised by that?
No, look, I think President Trump has been terrific. He's supported us in so many ways. And he understands that we have to get rid of Hamas. He understands that Hamas is also using their own interdiction tactics to prevent humanitarian aid going. So there's been shortages, no question about that. There's been also suffering. And what I intend to do with President Trump, we talked about that and agreed upon that, is to overcome this with a humanitarian surge. So we're opening up safe routes through which aid trucks can go through. We're going to try to quadruple the distribution points that are manned by Americans. And they're doing a hell of a job distributing food to Gazans without Hamas taking over the food. And that's really what we're doing. And airdrops that we intend to do, we're already doing. And we invite other countries to join us. So
I guess it's important to see how he's lying. I don't even know how to I don't know where to begin. Airdrops are not a sustainable way to deliver aid. Okay. The international humanitarian organizations have all criticized the aid drops as the only aid delivery mechanism. As I already explained, there are 400 aid distribution sites inside of the Gaza Strip that were operated by the United Nations. There are thousands of trucks lined up outside of the Gaza Strip, filled to the brim with aid, waiting to be delivered. Israel is refusing to deliver this aid. They're just sending moldy bread and crumbs of food so that the international community can do a PR initiative and to allow Israel to continue its starvation, allow Israel to continue its genocide. The idea that they are going to permanently occupy the Gaza Strip militarily is, and openly admitting to that, is just an active recognition of the final solution. There is no permanent military occupation of the Gaza Strip by the Israeli state. This would be tremendously bloody for all of the Israeli military. They have to do this after genociding the entire Palestinian population. There's no other way that they can do this. And I suspect, and I mean, it's not even a suspicion at this point. It just, we're seeing it unfold in broad daylight. They are trying to ethnically cleanse the entirety of the Strip. They are trying to play this song and dance in an effort to not have like Western leadership basically say, we're going to invade Israel militarily. What the are you doing?
Has President Trump given the green light for your plan to take over the remaining 25% of Gaza and occupy all of it?
Well, he understands that it's Israel who's going to do the fighting. It's not American soldiers.
Did he give you a yes?
Well, he just says, I know Israel will do what it has to do, and we haven't got into that kind of discussion. But we have gotten into a discussion on two things. One,
believe it or not, the Trump admin plans to further increase the reality distortion field. The Trump admin plans to dramatically cut criticism of human rights abuses in Russia, Israel, and El Salvador in the upcoming State Department reports. The Post compared drafts to past reports. What I actually fear is maybe it's not over after the dust settles. What I actually fear is that like Western journalists go in, they cover it. All of these like humanitarian rights organizations go in and they cover the full magnitude, the full scale of the atrocities. The media still tries to do a pressure campaign, a censorship campaign, and people still go along with that same, now even more expanded permission structure for Israel. That is what I'm actually worried about. But I know that in his calculation, Benjamin Netanyahu worries that when they see the true magnitude, it will be undeniable that Israel has committed a genocide. And at that stage, I think the global community will take action against Israel. That is what he fears.
Let Gaza be governed by a civilian authority that is not Israel, because I don't want to occupy Gaza forever. I don't want to govern Gaza. I want to have a different governance there that basically is willing to live in peace with Israel and give Gazans a different future. That's entirely different.
Fangivir says Palestinian prisoners should be shot and starved. I guess I just think that the Israel's national security minister bragging about starving Palestinian prisoners and putting a bullet in their head should have made the news. I'm surprised that I've had to dealt with the questions if the Palestinian prisoners have a fruit basket or not. And I say Palestinian prisoners must be killed, shot in the head. The law of executing prisoners will be passed on the third reading in the Knesset, and the law will mean we will give them a little to live on and nothing more. I mean, yeah, he also celebrated recently saying like they come in fat and leave thin when talking about starving prisoners. How many people in the West know that Israel's blocked the Red Cross from visiting Palestinian prisoners since October 7? Literally today, the state is in court seeking its 20th delay, citing national security. I'm telling you, is the worst double standard there is. Anything Israel has ever claimed about Hamas, they have done a million times worse. The only reason why Israel can continue this propaganda initiative also is because of pure racism through and through. Because Palestinians do live there and they have communicated their own demise. They show it with the limited amount of internet that they have. They literally film this shit and go, this is what they're doing to us. But because we are an incredibly racist Western civilization society. We don't even listen to them. At least you do. Many of you in here do that. And that's the reason why you're 3, 4, sometimes 5 months ahead of where mainstream discourse is going. Because for mainstream press in the Western world, it's only newsworthy when it's far too late to do anything about it. Only then do they ever cover the events that are unfolding. There is perhaps no better representation of this than the famine stuff that's going on right now. The famine discourse is going on. Famine doesn't happen overnight. There are food stockpiles that need to diminish, that need to deplete. So for months, we said Israel's blockade is going to lead to a famine. There is a percentage of the population of Palestinians that are actively speaking out and actively talking about massive inflation in the marketplaces and how little food they have in the strip, that famine is imminent. Famine is imminent. Famine is imminent. It took hundreds of starving children to die and be photographed for people to finally go, okay, I guess famine did happen. How did this happen though? We don't know. What do you mean we don't know? You don't listen to the Israelis that are saying famine is happening and we like it. You don't listen to the Palestinians that are saying we are being starved by Israel. And then after the events unfold and you start seeing the death and destruction, only then do you turn around and you go, okay, I guess it was happening, but how could this have happened?
Now we have to complete the job of eliminating basically the last proxy of Iran that's still standing.
And this is your job to sell it to your people.
Well, I don't have to. Believe me, the people are selling it to me. You know, I go into Gaza as you went in. You've been to Rafah? I've been to Rafah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Talk to the soldiers. Talk to the division commanders. You know what they tell me? They tell me, Prime Minister, don't bother with the press. Just press on with the mission of liberating Gaza from these murderers. And we can do the job. We can separate the civilians from the combatants. We can eliminate Hamas. We can liberate the remaining hostages. Let us do the job. That's what the soldiers that cut across Israeli society are telling us. Doesn't mean that they make it to the mainstream channels. Doesn't mean that they make it to the foreign press. In fact, they don't. But if I had to run the country based on these vilifications, you know, I shouldn't be here. Because leaders should do what is right and what will withstand the test of time. And what will withstand the test of time is that in the hour of peril, Israel didn't slumber like other democracies often do. In the face of this challenge to our existence, we took on a 7-front war, won it, and secured the peace, and expanded the peace after this victory, expanding the Abraham Accords, creating a different Middle East. That's what we're in the process of doing.
This is why I said what I said about the Nelk boys. Like, this is why I said what I said to the Nelk boys. This conversation taking place is even more damaging than the Nelk boys' stupidity here. This is a reputable media institution. Reputable. It's not, but it's reputable for your dumb parents, unfortunately. And no pushback whatsoever, just a continuous stream of fucking lies. Just like the Nelk boys did. But this time it's an adult. It's an adult with influence over your parents.
Instead of shifting that argument on the media, whether it's the New York Times or maybe the Gazan Health Ministry, putting out, because you've said repeatedly in this conversation that they exaggerate, will you allow more independent reporters to go into Gaza and see it for themselves?
That's my conclusion. In fact, that's my instruction as of this morning to the military. And I said, that's exactly what you should be doing. Those who are lying are going to continue lying. But give honest journalists the ability to see the truth. A, the fact that we're trying to get civilian aid, humanitarian aid to the people.
Now he'll let journalists in. He won't, by the way. Newsflash, he's not going to do that. What he means is he'll allow those freaks that have consistently defended Israel to do the same IDF escort with full editorial control. Remember, with full military censor, full editorial control. He will maybe allow some figures, just like they did in the past, like Douglas Murray, to go in and do stunts.
People of Gaza, the efforts that we're making there. B, to understand and explain why those buildings are destroyed, because they're booby-trapped, and we clear the population. And I'm glad you were in. I'm glad you did this thing. I'm glad, in fact, I would say you were blazing the trail. But there have been others, and we have the same result. Every time people see it, they see it in a more realistic way, in a more honest way than the way that it's presented in unfortunately, the New York Times and other New York Times should be sued. I'm actually looking at whether a country can sue.
Dude, every defender of Israel has one speed. Overly litigious crybabies. Mods. Overly litigious crybabies who complain constantly that the world won't just say thank you for fucking genociding children. I do not know how a publication could be more pro-Israel while still maintaining a shred, or still trying to maintain a shred of institutional credibility. The New York Times has already dropped all of its institutional credibility because of its unlimited defense of Israel.
I have one more question, but I want to clarify something if I could.
Sure.
You've said a few times now that the buildings in Rafah that we saw had tunnels underneath them.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to see that when we're there physically with our own eyes, but you're saying all these buildings were booby-trapped?
All.
And they were not hit by the Israeli Air Force?
No, what I'm saying is
Because
that,
it is building after building.
well, these
house
are,
after house.
remember, these houses are emptied of population. In the beginning,
Man, how convenient, dude. They just had to blow up all those buildings. And it was actually Hamas that blew up the buildings. That's the argument. It's such an insane claim that even Fox News is like, come on, man. The interview is just letting him talk with no pushback. I know, but the situation is so indefensible that it doesn't even matter that there's no pushback, because the average person that's even a little bit knowledgeable on this goes, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I don't think that the but Hamas narrative is working, even amongst a population of Americans that actively despise Muslims and Arabs and is like, so scary. Hamas is so scary. I don't think it's working. There are plenty of people that were horrified after October 7 that were going, yeah, do as much death and destruction, that are now turning around and be like, yeah, this is up.
We'll see if we get that piece.
Yeah.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So far as we can tell, it's the first time he's been asked directly about the allegations of genocide and also the allegations of starvation in Gaza. While that's happening,
No, the Nelk Boys did it first. And not only that, but the response was the same. And you also, just like the Nelk Boys, didn't give him any pushback. I told you.
Andrew, there's also there's a lot of reaction globally, as you can imagine. Gaza is within Gaza, Hamas, with many of their leaders in Qatar, have already responded, saying that this new offensive shows Netanyahu's aims to sacrifice the hostages and serve his own personal interests. So we're reaching that point right now where we'll get reaction from the Security Cabinet meeting and see what the next move is.
All right, we got the most predictable news story of the day. Israel approving a new war plan to occupy the entire Gaza Strip. We already talked about this. Donald Trump literally said Israel can do whatever it wants, obviously. But let's take a look.
From the heavens into what feels like a living hell. On the ground, a dangerous scrum to survive, where they land on buildings, those fit enough to get up first stand the best chance. And as well as starvation, there is thirst. Aid groups say the water crisis is now just as severe. Groundwater polluted by sewage and chemicals seeping through the rubble. The pipes damaged by strikes and the risk of disease everywhere.
We tell the world, you want
The Israeli president says Israel has overhauled its approach to the humanitarian situation. But its prime minister is now said to favour a complete takeover of Gaza. He's met with senior security officials to finalise a new strategy for the war, despite the widespread condemnation of much of the rest of the world. In Israel too, tempers flare on the streets of Tel Aviv. Those protesting agree that heading into Hamas strongholds could be catastrophic for hostages still being held. They blocked one of the main highways last night, calling on the government to facilitate a hostage deal. In a small part of the wasteland that Gaza has become, they rake through the rubble after Israeli airstrikes overnight. It looks futile, but they begin anyway, because this is their home and their only reality.
Well, earlier I spoke to the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who is a very vocal critic of Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's conduct in the Gaza war. I began by asking him if he thought that starvation had been used as a weapon of war.
I don't think that there was a policy of starvation. Definitely, I have to say, unfortunately, I mean, regrettably, and I'm ashamed of it, that there are factions in the Israeli.
Okay, bro. Israel literally doing the final solution in broad daylight. And you got the most aggressive critic of Benjamin Netanyahu still trying to save face for some indecipherable reason. Just be honest, man. Jesus Christ. It's like a little bit, maybe war crimes, maybe a little bit like genocide. I don't know. It's not a deliberate policy. It's not deliberate policy.
Do you think the real danger is that Israel will just isolate itself even more on the international stage and might at the end of the day have even less?
Oh no. What if people don't f with Israel no more? That's what I'm always thinking about, dude. Yeah, that's over. And that's so over that it's not even just about Israel any longer. It is about democracy in and of itself. Israel is so isolated in such a pariah state that Western nations and their inability to respond to the overwhelming majorities and their completely justified demands of shutting off the money and weapons faucet to Israel is making people reconsider whether they have a democratic process at all. That's how bad the situation has gotten, that this transparent division amongst the political class and the regular people is making people second guess whether or not liberal democracies were truly democratic at all.
Do you think Hamas can actually be defeated if this war continues indefinitely, as the Prime Minister seems to want it to?
No, I don't think so. You know, what is the definition of total victory, of total defeat? If one believes that we can destroy Hamas to the extent that there will not be one Palestinian in Gaza holding a gun, this is a fantasy. It will never happen.
Even if these people are not called Hamas.
Reminder that Olmert was prime minister, or one of his advisors dropped the "put the Palestinians on a diet" quote, and now he's saying Israel wouldn't starve people in Gaza. Yeah, the reason why the Israeli military officials very quickly also came to this conclusion, if you were paying close attention even in the early stages of this genocide, the Israeli military officials, the generals, were routinely saying, there is no military solution to Hamas. There is no military solution to Hamas. We cannot militarily defeat Hamas because Hamas is just an idea, okay? It's just a name. That's it. They're not like an alien force that has been able to hypnotize the Palestinian population. It is literally just an idea of Palestinian sovereignty, of Palestinian resistance. And you can kill a man, but you can't kill a man's wishes to be free. So as long as Israel exists, some form of Hamas is also going to exist, as it existed before Hamas existed. And ironically enough, the more children and women and adults, men, that you kill, the more you are creating an environment for Hamas, because Hamas in and of itself was born out of the Israeli occupation, born out of the sheer cruelty. Hamas only gained popularity amongst the Palestinian population because it was the only militant front that was using a fraction of the violence that Israel was bringing about regular Palestinians. This is why I spent an entire year and a half trying to explain to people the history of Hamas, the history of Palestinian resistance, the different factions, the different methods, the full brunt of the Israeli occupation that has spanned over 78 years. That's the reason why so many people kept repeatedly saying over and over and over again that I was a terrorist that needs to be deplatformed immediately. And still to this day, people still try to hit those lines to an increasingly smaller group of people as the walls are closing in. And that's why, as the conditions worsen and as more and more people recognize the sheer cruelty, the magnitude of Israel's violence, their defenders, Israel's very own defenders, become increasingly belligerent. Eyal Yacobi, breaking footage inside of Gaza shows restaurants completely operating. Why doesn't the media show this? The date on this video is 2022. He does this every single day, all day, truly vile in an almost unique way. The tide shift against Israel has been so dramatic that they're literally in a permanent state of panic, looking to try to change the term. Israel has dropped the term Hasbara and now calls this narrative control system Todah, meaning awareness. Officials admit they're losing the global narrative, not because of Gaza's reality, but due to their slow media response. Example, this, by the way, is the same exact type of idiotic, antiquated thinking that the media applied after Zoran Mamdani's victory. They're like, oh, he won because of social media and nothing else. That's what we can do. You can't social media yourself out of this problem. A new media war room tracks how coverage is shaped globally, timing, framing, and distraction. Now, guess what? They tried to do this with the Nelk boys. But because Israel's reputation is irredeemable, because its acts are so cruel that every single onlooker, they don't even need to be equipped with the understanding of the occupation and its violence. They can just see, I don't know, 3 to 4 different images of starving children, and it's over. That's enough for the average person to go, nope, I'm out. This country that's doing this. It's done. It's over. And that's precisely the reason why when Benjamin Netanyahu went on the Nelk boys, it didn't actually improve Benjamin Netanyahu's image. It actually hurt the Nelk boys' image. Think about that. That is something that is unimaginable 2-3 years ago. That you have a guy who has gotten a standing ovation, a bipartisan standing ovation every single time he's spoken to Congress, going on an American podcast, and then that podcast doesn't see any benefits from that and only sees negative consequences from that. And Benjamin Netanyahu also does not get any positive press out of this. It's over. It's done. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Any sort of collaboration with heads of the Israeli state or Israeli officials is a permanent stain on the reputation of people who engage in prank videos and you know what I mean? This isn't a reputable institution that tarnished their credibility. This is an institution that didn't have any credibility to begin with. And now, even that audience that goes there to full send it, getting sendy, dude. I love fucking ripping lawn darts, dude. Even that audience is going, why aren't you full sending it, bro? Why are you full sending it with Bibi, bro? Bibi is like Satan Yahoo, bro. Now, this doesn't mean it's over. Of course, there's still a long and drawn out ideological battle here. But that's what I mean when I say there's only so much public pressure that our politicians can choose not to respond to without any sort of exit ramp or a pressure valve that releases. People will turn on the entire concept of democracy to begin with. People are waking up to the reality that the democratic process is not real. I understand why people look at the situation and go, I mean, how can you say that there is any sort of victory here? The only reason why you feel that way is because it's relatively new for you. This process is relatively new. You only woke up to the realities of Israel in the last couple of years, maybe after October 7, because Israel got to kill as many Palestinians as it wanted to over and over again without Western audiences even recognizing that that was immoral or wrong. Israel got to do an apartheid freely. And make no mistake, if you give up now as pressure is mounting, instead of still continuously trying to get more people on board, instead of continuing to keep up the pressure campaign, you're allowing those deaths to be in vain because all is not lost. There are still 1 million plus Palestinians that live in the Gaza Strip. So you should do it for them, and you should do it for the hundreds of thousands of lives that Israel has unjustifiably taken.
Briefly, do you applaud the British Prime Minister's move to recognize the state of Palestine, possibly during the UN meeting at the end of September?
No, had Prime Minister Starmer asked me in advance, I would have given him maybe a better advice. I don't think that recognizing a Palestinian state should be presented as a punishment to Israel. Why is it a punishment? I'm in favor of a Palestinian state. I was fighting for the creation of a Palestinian state. I negotiated with the Palestinians in 2008 to reach a comprehensive agreement on the basis of a Palestinian state alongside the state of Israel on the basis of the 67 borders. So I support a Palestinian state long before Starmer. But if Stama wants to support a Palestinian state, this is a good idea. But why?
Dude, I never thought in my entire life would I see Ehud Olmert outflanking a supposedly left leader in a Western nation state and actually do it with the correct criticism. Like, what do you mean? That's not supposed to be presented as a punishment to the fucking Israeli state. What a stupid way to go about this.
If President Trump was listening to you now, which I'm sure he is, and he does seem to have perhaps the only person who's got the power to stop Mr. Netanyahu, what would you say to Trump?
Well, I would have said to him what I said to him, I think, in our last talk and in any of the interviews I gave across the world. President, you have the power to make history. You, the only person on earth that can do something that will change immediately the lives of tens of millions of people by doing one thing. Summon Bibi into the Oval Office, put him on the chair that he loves most.
Holy bro, give it a couple months. Ehud Olmert is going to start being like, no more defensive weapons. This, everyone knows defensive weapons is how Netanyahu gets to control the conversation. What the Ehud Olmert is a freak in his own right. It is crazy that the situation has gotten to a point where, like, he's seemingly the reasonable party here. This is a former prime minister of Israel. He has also been directly responsible for the continuation of the apartheid. This is a former Likud minister too, by the way. Like, he spent the majority of his career in Benjamin Netanyahu's party. That one is Ehud Barak, the one that went to Epstein's party. This is Ehud Olmert.
Which is facing the cameras in the Oval Office and telling Bibi, enough is enough. It's all over with. You end the war today. Only Trump.
Yeah, it's crazy because the former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert, also in this interview implies that all it takes is one phone call or at least one in-person meeting.